Hey YouTube, what's up? This is Will reviewing Metaphor Refontazio, which is just Tony Hawk Project 8. I'm gonna be honest. For those that don't know, Tony Hawk Project 8 is a game that came out, if I'm not mistaken, in 2008. It's part of the Tony Hawk franchise series.
Really?
It came along with another game, Tony Hawk Underground. It was roughly around the same time. Now, my brother and I bought all Tony Hawk's, Project Wasteland, Tony Hawk Project 8, and Tony Hawk Underground for about $5 from a local Blockbuster back in 2009, 2010, on like some odd Friday. And he played Tony Hawk Underground. I played Tony Hawk Project 8, and I loved the game. For a basic synopsis of what happens in Tony Hawk Project 8, you play a skateboarder of your selection, and you're just some local skater. You're kind of a nobody, to be perfectly honest. But then Tony Hawk comes into town and has this thing called Tony Hawk's Project 8, where the 8 best skaters in the metro area will be able to join him in the Skater Jam 2008 World Series. And your character is like, yeah, I want to do that. So then begins your very long quest to ascend the ranks of skaterdom and become the greatest skateboarder of all time. Now, I got pretty good at the game, not going to lie. But I never made it to number one. I was like number 2 or number 3 in the Project 8. So I beat the game, and got my character to fulfill his dream as joining the Skater Jam World Tour or whatever you want to call it. Now let's talk about Metaphor Refontazio. It's a game by Atlas. They're published by Sega. It's like a Persona style game set in a fantasy world. Doesn't make any sense. Like, one game set in the modern day, the other set in a fantasy setting and made by the Japanese gaming company. But how wrong you would be. Tony Hawk Project 8 and Metaphor Refontazia have so much in common. I wouldn't be surprised if Tony Hawk sues Atlas for plagiarism when the Game of the Year awards come in. First off, let's just talk about the obvious similarities. First off, Persona isn't a skateboarding game. Tony Hawk is a skateboarding game. But one weird mechanic that Metaphor Refontazia has, unlike Persona games, is you have a skateboard. Now, they don't call it a skateboard. Technically, it's not a skateboard. It's more closer to a hoverboard. It's a sword. But you still ride it like a skateboard. And it goes like a skateboard. And I'm sure you can do pretty cool tricks with it if the protagonist was given that chance. But the similarities don't end there. What is the plot of Metaphor Refontazio? Well, for starters, the king dies. He's murdered. Similar to how Tony Hawk is being usurped in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 8. But that's not really a connection. What is the true connection is what happens shortly after. The king's magic comes in, and they're going to have this election, this popularity contest for choosing the next king. And there's a popularity ranking, and you have to get popular enough to become the king. Just like Tony Hawk Pro Skater Project 8, where you are also trying to become more popular by doing quests for people and going on adventures and whatnot. The plots are completely similar. But, just because it steals from Tony Hawk Project 8, the greatest Tony Hawk Project game ever made, That's not the only issue with this, right? Because it also steals from other games. Case in point, Dragon Age Origins.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So Dragon Age Origins is a game made by BioWare, also around 2008. I think the people that wrote Atlas's Metaphor Refontazio probably were really big fans of American Xbox 360 games around that period. But in Dragon Age Origins, you are playing a Grey Warden. And there's a variety of origins. And you'd think, oh yeah, they're fantasy games, but they don't have much similar to that. How wrong you would be. First off, let's talk about the protagonist's father figure in both of the games. First off, let's talk about the protagonist of Dragon Age Origins. Yeah, you pick up a father figure by the name of Duncan. Now, Duncan is a Grey Warden. He's an older man, and he's kind of like a father figure. Now, my character in Dragon Age had two father figures, but that's besides the point. Duncan is kind of the primary father figure. And he loses his life early in the game. Much similar to how your father figure in Metaphor Refontazia loses his life. His name is Grius. He's this crazy little old guy. He's a soldier, and he loses his life in much a similar vein as Duncan in Dragon Age Origins. But that's not the only similarity. Let's look at your boyfriend in both the video games. What's his face? Alistair. Okay. Alistair, this funny little guy, he's part of the Chantry. He's a fellow Grey Warden. Very similar to the Stroll. I'm just saying. The similarities are there. Both believe in one example, Duncan for Dragon Age, and Grius for Metaphor Refontazia. Both of the side characters, both are funny looking dudes. Both are funny characters that like to tell jokes and whatnot. Both are very sad that when their fathers end up dying. So you might be asking yourself, well, that's just, there's so many father figures inside these video games. What else is there in these games? And I can tell you, Civil War. The core premise of Dragon Age Origins is a civil war and a popularity contest. What's the core premise of Metaphor Refontazio? Well, first off, the king is assassinated by the would-be ruler of both Ferelden and the world of the Grand Trad of the royal capital of Metaphor Refontazio. But then a civil war breaks out and a popularity contest takes place. So, in conclusion, Metaphor Refontazio, Tony Hawk Project 8, Dragon Age Origins. These three games have so many similarities. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised, that Metaphor Refontazia would plagiarize so many American games about skateboarding and Civil War, and it's honestly not surprising. That being said, Metaphor Refontazia is a really great game, and I would argue that the really three games form the trifecta, a trilogy of games that I would recommend. Start with Tony Hawk Project 8, then go to Dragon Age Origins, and then you can really enjoy Metaphor Refontazio for how these other two games influenced this very, very good JRPG. Anyways, that's it.